subscribers, welcome back to the Wayward Gourmands. This is Keith. Today we're making a giant cookie. The kind that you have for the parties is going to be the size of a serving platter. It's absolutely gorgeous. They come out fantastic and they're super easy. If you don't know if you want to have a cake or a cookie for a party, this is it. This is a cake-sized cookie. This is a big bad boy. So I'm going to start creaming my butter and sugar together, and I'll be back in a second and I'll show you the rest of the ingredients and how we put it together. Talk to you in a minute. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start. I have 4 sticks of butter in here, that's 2 cups. And I'm going to be adding brown sugar, white sugar, and some vanilla extract. I'm going to start creaming this, and once it gets nice and light and fluffy, we'll start adding some other ingredients, all right? All right, before we start adding the other ingredients, I'm going to just knock it all back down into the bottom of the bowl, because when you're beating it on high speed, when you're trying to cream this stuff, it'll climb up the side of the bowl, and you want to make sure that you incorporate all your ingredients in it, because you don't want to lose any of that goodness. We're going to put it back on low. You can either beat the eggs a little bit, or you can add them one at a time. You don't want to dump it all in, you want it to incorporate right. So we're just going to do a little bit at a time. It's going to be a total of 4 eggs for this monster. While I'm incorporating this, I just wanted to let you know I have all-purpose flour here, and what I did was I added the salt and baking soda to it, gave it a little whisk up so you don't have to worry about it mixing in there, because it's not a whole lot of salt and baking powder that's in it, and it is a lot of flour, so you want to make sure it's kind of spread throughout. But I'm going to turn this on, get the flour in. Just as it comes together, I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to divide it into 2 sections of dough, and I'm going to do half with white chocolate chip, half with the dark chocolate chip, and then I'm going to show you could do half and half on the big cookie, and then we'll get it baking. While this is going on, you're going to want your oven at 375 degrees, and then we're going to get going with this. Be back in a second. Let's start some high-speed mixing. That's what you want. I mean, you're going to see pliable. It is going to be a little sticky, but it's absolutely perfect though. So I'm going to get this, I'm going to divide it, get it into one bowl, get it into a second bowl, and do the mixing. I'll be back in a second after I get this all straightened out, and then we'll see how we pack it in the pan. Be back in a minute. All right, so I got things straightened up here a little bit. I have the dough divided into the bowl, and I still have half of it in the mixing bowl. You can see I have a 14-inch deep dish pizza pan here that I sprayed with cooking spray, lined with parchment paper. Had to do a little creative cutting because it's hard to find parchment paper that's going to fit a 14-inch dish. Sprayed it again. This way the cookie, you know it's going to come out. You don't want that thing sticking in here after all this work. So I'm going to set this aside. Now I have half my dough right here. You can use a spatula to fold it in. I like using the glove. To this I'm going to add the dark chocolate chips. I know that looks like a lot of chocolate chips, and that's because it is. It's in the name, chocolate chip cookie. It wouldn't be much of a chocolate chip cookie if it wasn't loaded with chocolate chips. So I'm going to you can fold them in with a spatula, but again, I like doing the gloves. We have an escapee. So what I'm going to do is, while I'm mixing this, is I'm going to pat the half of this dough down one side of the pan, and then when I mix the other one, I'm gonna pat the other side. This way you're gonna have like a half and half. You can, if somebody doesn't like chocolate, they can go with the white chocolate chips. If they don't like the white chocolate chips, they can have the dark. It doesn't matter. You can customize this any way you want. You can even add like walnuts in with it. Dried fruit bits, whatever you want to do to the cookie. It's so versatile, and it's based on how you want to make it. Me, I like a lot of chips in it. So, putting a lot of chips. All right, so I got that folded. And now I'm going to just start packing it into the pan. This is where the spatula may help a little. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this other half, and I'll be back in a second and show you what it looks like before we throw it in the oven. All right, I'll be back in a second. All right, so there you have it. We have it packed in the pan. Remember, we had this sprayed with cooking spray, lined with parchment, and then we resprayed it. This way, when we turn it out, the paper will peel off, and then you can flip it back over. Which I'll show you how to do that later. One thing of note, when you're packing it in the pan, to make things easier, if you have a glove or whatever, or if you're just using your hand, wet it a little bit, because then the dough will not stick to it, and you'll be able to pat it, you know, the way you want, instead of fighting to try and get the dough off of your hand all the time. So I'm going to get this in the oven. We'll be back in a little bit, and I'll show you how this looks when it's cooked. All right? Okay, here it is, out of the oven. It looks nice golden brown, it's gorgeous. Now while it's in the oven, you have to do a little work. It's gonna be 375 for 30 minutes, and then you wanna turn it down to 325 for another 15. The reason you're lowering the temperature is because the 375, you get the nice golden crispy on the side, and the 325 gently kind of cooks the center, because this is gonna be a thick cookie, and you wanna make sure it's cooked all the way through. I'm going to let this cool. You want to let it cool in the pan. If you try and get this out now, it's going to flop around, it's going to break, you're going to be miserable, and you're going to really be mad. So you let this cool for about an hour in the pan, and what's going to happen is, as it's cooling, it's going to shrink a little bit, and it's going to pull away from the sides. You can help them out a little bit. If you see anything sticking, you can run a butter knife or something around the edge to make sure that it lets go of the side of the pan, because remember, you have that parchment on the bottom. So I'm going to let this cool. Once this is ready to come out, we're going to be back. I'll show you how to flip this out, and then we'll cut it up and give it a taste. See you in a couple minutes. Okay, welcome back. As you can see, it's nice and cooled down. I can touch it, nothing's burning. That's how you want it, because like I said, if it's warm, it's more pliable and it'll bend and break, and you don't want that to happen.
It's huge.
It is, it's huge. So what we're going to do is, now I ran a knife around the edge just to make sure nothing was sticking, and I have two 14-inch pizza pans. I flip one up like that.
Oh, snap.
And we're good. Look at that. The parchment even stayed in the big pan. Move that off to the side.
You're so
But that's not the show time. There we go.
Bam, baby. Chocolate. Someone called the doctor on the cake.
Now, for the trial.
It looks like a cake.
Well, that's why we're calling it a cookie cake.
Oh, boo. I'm a cookie dragon. I'm a dragon.
All right, here, you want your piece?
Mighty dragon. Yeah.
Well, that's mine, because it has chocolate in it.
I am mighty dragon. I am mighty dragon.
There you go. Nice white chocolate chips in there. Still nice and chewy. You get the chocolate chips coming through. It is legitimately a huge chocolate chip cookie. Absolutely delicious. I encourage you guys to try this if you ever need to make a sweets for a big party or a get-together. I really enjoy it. These are going at this cookie. All the ingredients and the directions for this recipe are going to be in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. This is Keith, and this is my assistant, Keith.
And that's Pac-Man.
It is. It looks like Pac-Man now. Waka waka. We'll see you next time on The Wayward Gourmands.
Bye. Hope you liked it.